Hello, I'm Debbie from Off Topic. Things I didn't plan to learn. This thing that I didn't plan to learn was a really big one. I was going along fine. I was having the time of my life in Costa Rica. I was enjoying every day. I had a lot of friends and I was just doing all kinds of things but little by little I wasn't feeling very well. And I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know exactly what it was, and I didn't know how to find out. Um, then one day, there were some friends over visiting, and one of the friends said to me, "Debbie, you look terrible." And I said, "Wow, thank you so much." And then I thought about it, and I remembered that another time that someone had said that to me, the next day I had to have my gallbladder removed. So apparently I really looked really terrible. So I thought, wow, so somebody's noticing something about me too, that there's just something wrong. So I went to several doctors, private doctors, because the Costa Rica healthcare system that I was a part of, the universal healthcare, called the CAHA, the doctors were all on strike. The only doctors that were working were in the emergency rooms, basically. Um, so I I went to some private doctors and they did not know what was wrong with me. They couldn't find anything wrong. So finally, I went to this one female doctor, an endocrinologist, and she said, "Debbie, your stomach is really, really hard. I think you need to go get an ultrasound." So I did. I was at the hospital and there was a laboratory there, so I had the ultrasound done. And the person doing it looked really worried and he said, "I hate to tell you this, but you have a tumor on your ovary." And he said, "But my aunt had that too, and everything turned out fine. You're going to be okay." So he tried to reassure me because he could see that I was really shocked. And I went home on the bus. It was like an hour and a half ride and then another half an hour walk back to my house. And when I got there, I was very unsure of what to do next. So I got on Facebook and I put the question out to my friends. I said, "Okay, I just found out that I have a tumor on my ovary. Does anyone know what I should do?" And pretty quickly, one of my former students from when I was a teacher, who I'd had in the fifth grade, who is now a nurse in Denver, she messaged me immediately and she told me that I needed to go to an oncologist, gynecologist immediately. She said, "As soon as possible, you need to do this." She said, "If they don't have one in Costa Rica, then you need to come back to the United States and do it." She said, "Because this is really, really important." She said, "I work with these people all the time and I talked with them and they said, that's what you need to do." So I looked, um, I Googled it and I found out there was one in Costa Rica and I checked to see if he had any appointments. And luckily, he had an appointment the following day at 11 o'clock. So I took the appointment and then I looked at the rest of his schedule and I saw that he was booked up solid for 3 months. So I realized that that appointment had to have been a cancellation by someone. So I was really, really fortunate that that happened. So I went in to see him the next day, and my partner went with me. We went there, and um, he took a look at me. He gave me another ultrasound, and he said, "Definitely you have this tumor." And he said, "We have to get it out as soon as possible." He said, "This cannot wait." He said, "But you have to do these tests before I can do it, because it's going to be a very delicate operation. I have to be able to know exactly every possible thing about it before I do it so that I can get it out without breaking it open and destroying your entire body. So, and he also said, you have a 96% chance of having ovarian cancer. And I was like, what? And he said, yes, that those are the statistics for your age. And that's what I can tell you here. And so I said, well, what about the other 4%? And he said, it's possible that you don't, but I'm just telling you what the statistics are for you. And I said, well, have you had people that didn't have it? And he said, yes, I have. And I was remembering what my student had told me too. She said, you have to get a doctor that's older, that's had a lot of experience doing this, that's done this hundreds of times, that knows exactly what he's doing and is very skilled at this, because this is a very complicated surgery. And so as I was looking at the doctor, I was thinking to myself, how old can this doctor possibly be? He looks like he's about maybe 35 to 40 years old. And I was really skeptical about it, but I thought, okay, I've got to go with him. He seems like he's a really uh, good doctor. He's very kind and compassionate, and he seems like he's really going to cover all the bases on this, because he's telling me all these important tests that I have to get done. And so he gives me the list of all the tests, and he tells me to get started on them as soon as possible, so the next day I start doing them. I have to take a bus about an hour and a half to 2 hours each way to and from San Jose, the capital city, and I have to go into the laboratory, and each day I have to do whatever test I can do. Sometimes I have to do one test before I can do another, or I can only do one in a day, or there were different rules and regulations, but there were quite a few tests on the list. I would say there were about 10. So every day I did that. And every day I also went to a restaurant that had a really good selection of different kinds of salads and things. Every day I went in there and ate a really good meal afterward, just as a little celebration. Um, Also, I had asked the doctor how much the surgery was going to cost, and it was like it was a lot of money, but it was not anything like it would be in the United States. It was a fraction of what it would be in the United States. And I told him I only had $300. That was it. That was all that I had in the bank. And so I said, but I can check with my family and see if they can help me. So when I got home, I called them, and they said they would help me. And anyway, I continued on with the tests day by day. And at the end of the tests, um, when I got right to the end, by that time, I looked like I was pregnant. I looked like I was 9 months pregnant. I was not walking around so everybody could see me looking like that. I was wearing a big coat, and I was definitely not trying to go around looking like I was uh, in my 60s and pregnant. So the day that everything was done, the doctor was all set, and he set up the surgery in the hospital, and I was going to be staying overnight also. Um, I had to be there, I think, at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I had to take a taxi. A special person had to drive me in, because there was no way I could get there on the bus and be there that early in the morning for the operation. So my partner and I went, and I can't remember exactly how long the surgery was, but I would think it was maybe 2.5 to 3 hours long. And so I remember when I went in, the anesthesiologist uh, was very, very kind and nice, and he talked to me with a very nice voice, and he said the last words were duerme, which means sleep. And then I was out. And when I woke up, I remember my partner was right there with me, and a little bit later, the doctor came into the room and he said, "Debbie, you're in the 4%." And I was like, "Yay! I made it to the 4%. I'm so happy." And so then I said, "I want to see the tumor." And he said, "No, you don't want to see it. You do not want to see it." And the nurses were all shaking their heads. "No, no." And I said, "Why not?" And they said, "It's really, really ugly. You do not want to see it." And I said, "Okay." Later on, he did send me um, a picture of it, so I got to see it. It was really gross. It looked like an alien. It was disgusting. Um, I think I've deleted the photo of it. I don't think I wanted to save that anymore. But it was gone, and I went home. My friend from San Ramon came and picked me up, and I thought that I was going to be just fine. And my granddaughters had said, "Oh, we're going to come there and help you, Grandma." And I said, "No, no, I'm going to be fine." Well, I wasn't fine, and they did come out. First, one of them came out for 2 weeks. Star came out first, and I couldn't even sit up in bed. I didn't have the muscles to sit up at all. And so she had to help pull me up just to sit up so I could take a drink or do whatever. And I had to walk back and forth in the hallway. And it was a 2-story building. And I wasn't supposed to be walking up and down the stairs, so I had to stay up there. There was a bathroom up there too, which was really close to the bedroom, so that worked out good. And so Star helped me. I had to walk back and forth across the floor every day, a couple times a day. And a lot of people came and helped me, and some of my English students came and brought me soup, and other friends came and brought me food, and they had to come upstairs to see me because I couldn't go down. Um, but Star was there for the first 2 weeks, and then Najoni came for the second 2 weeks. And by the time Najoni got there, I was doing much better, and I was able to go downstairs. And during the time she was there, I believe we took a couple of trips. She wanted to go to Gracia to visit a restaurant that she really liked there, so I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can get on a bus. I don't know if I can do that. But I did. I got on. I had to go on 4 buses that day to go to that restaurant. But we went there, and then a couple days after that, we went to another thing. We went to Punta Arenas to see this big floating library that was coming through, and I believe we also went to see Zarcero, the town of Zarcero, where all the topiaries are. Um, so we did several things while she was there right at the end of the time. It was very slow moving for me because I could barely do anything, but um, it was a very, 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 very different experience. And luckily, I was able to get it done, and my life was saved, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful, and I didn't have the ovarian cancer. But I felt really bad because I had some friends that were going through ovarian cancer at that time, and I felt really, really guilty that I didn't have it. and that they did, and I felt really bad for them. And anyway, that was my experience with the surgery. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed the content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell and like the video and come back for more videos. We'll see you later.